Hello and welcome to the superfreakmedia podcast No Ghouls Allowed with me, your host, Jonno Butler. This month I have got with me Liam Banks.
Hey, 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 hey.
That's saying hello like a regular human.
No, I was just stuck. Hey.
Hey. Sarah Thomas is with us.
Hello.
Hello, and also we've got Charlie Clark.
Hello.
Who this time is not on presenting duties. She's back on the panel.
Thank for that.
Well, it depends how badly you do on this episode, Jonno, because she may get a promotion.
She may get a promotion, she may. But she's also dropped an F-bomb already, so
yes.
Off she goes.
Yeah, negative 1 point, Charlie.
Negative
Standard practice.
1.
It's a Charlie podcast. There's always going to be swearing.
So, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about our biggest horror disappointments. So, the things that have really hacked us off about horror. It could be films that we've been looking forward to for a long time that have turned out to be absolute trash, or it could be something slightly different, like mine, which is kind of a trend in horror that is stressing me out. We're also probably going to have a Nick Cage corner special.
What if he visits today?
If he visits today, he's lurking in that corner. I can sense him.
You can smell him.
I can smell you.
Oh, God.
But yes, we will crack on with our disappointments. Liam, I've heard you've got some sort of list. So I'm thinking we should crack on with you. We should start with you. You can reel a few off and we can jump on the ones that we think, yeah, this grinds our gears.
Okay. I think, these are kind of, I'd probably say, significant disappointments for me in the last, 10 years or so. A little bit, maybe longer. Okay.
So you've not been holding a grudge or anything? This is you've made a list over 10 years?
Yeah, 100%. It's in, my notebook of just films never to watch again. That doesn't exist, but it does for the purpose of the podcast. So I don't know if you guys have treated it the same when you've looked for your disappointments, but mine mainly kind of revolve around I might have seen a trailer or marketing, or there's obviously something that we've seen that's built up hype for a film, and then when we've got to the theatre and seen it, we're just like, what was that? Because it wasn't the film that I thought it was going to be. So that's kind of what I've gone into it with in terms of my ideas of what a horror disappointment is. So the first one on my list goes back to 2011, and it's Paranormal Activity number 3. Now, I've picked number 3 in particular because 80s, obviously, I love the 80s. I really obviously enjoyed the hype around number 1. And number 2, I thought was actually better in many ways. They'd up the ante. I can remember that genuinely scared me when I saw that. And number 3 had this amazing trailer. Now, the thing that got me was the fact, other than the fact that it was utter shite, was just the fact that a lot of the stuff in the trailer actually wasn't in the film. And I can remember at the time there was a big thing about people being like, well, we've kind of gone into it expecting one thing and it really isn't that. So, I don't know. Bit sneaky of the studio, I think, to do that. Did you guys check that out?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing that you've mentioned about things in the trailer not being in the film. It kind of works both ways, doesn't it? You could have that extreme, or you can have the extreme where they literally show everything in the trailer and the film is an utter disappointment because it's all been given away. But to not actually have sequences in the film that are in the trailer is just arsey, isn't it? That?
Yeah, I very much. I think I can remember feeling actually quite mad because there was this whole thing I think with the house being on fire and stuff that was alluded to in the trailer, and it was going to explain obviously where the burnt photograph was from in the first film, and you just didn't really get that much backstory. It just felt like it was just thrown in. And I know studios will shoot things for the trailer. I know obviously even with the big Marvel films, they have the shots that are for the trailer, don't they? That then necessarily aren't in there, but I don't know. I think with horror and those sorts of stories, they're stripped down to the basics. So when stuff isn't included that you've already seen, it's a little bit annoying. Yeah. The next one on the list, then I'll try and riff through these. Then
can I just say one last thing on that one?
No.
Cheers. It's the extreme version of having a look through the DVD shelf at Asda or something and seeing an exceptional cover, and then none of that appears in the film.
Yeah, I suppose it's all marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like when you have a star who's in it for like 10 seconds and then they're the biggest head on the poster, you're like, okay, cool.
Yep.
I'm talking to you, Bruce Willis.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you were shot on a green screen for 30 seconds, and yet you still dominate the front cover of this.
Absolutely. It's so annoying. What were you saying? Sorry, Sarah.
I'm just saying that us marketers just like to piss people off.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I hold you 100% accountable for everything.
It was all me.
That, so, yeah. Sarah's just been orchestrating this from the start.
Puppet master.
I think the next one that I wanted to mention was one I think we kind of touched upon a little bit in the remake episode when me and you chatted, Jonno, and it was the Carrie remake. Just because, just utter ass. And I mean, I can remember seeing that with you, Charlie. And obviously, I was quite in depth with that film at the time. And I can remember even you were like, this is dreadful. And it had so much promise as well. Like,
It really
for me,
did as well.
I don't obviously want to speak for you guys, but I felt like it was a very female-centered story, and there was a female director, and Chloe Grace Moretz, great actress, and I just feel like none of that was like considered at all. It was just shite.
I just feel like if you're going to do a remake of something, like, just do something special with it. Otherwise, what's the point? And there was nothing special about that film, and I say that like because it was a female director and it had Chloe Grace Moretz, who's one of my favorite actresses, in it. It should have been amazing. It could have been so good. And it was just like, I remember us walking out of the cinema and going, what a pile of shit. Like, why did they bother?
Yeah.
And I hate that I feel like that, but nah.
I think it was
Why?
universally like kind of panned at the time, so
Yeah.
I don't think we were the only horror fans who were disappointed. But that's definitely one that sticks with me. Another one, which again I think you're going to agree with, Charlie, because I can remember when we went to see this, which I think as I've watched it over the years, I've just realised it's just a pile of crap, is The Neon Demon, which was back in 2016. Now, I'm going to admit defeat on this one. I'm going to admit defeat on this one, Charlie, because obviously I'm a massive fan of the director who also directed Drive and Only God Forgives. I'd kind of made an effort to see all of his work at the cinema if I could. And I was like, yes, he's doing horror, looks great. Trailer was decent. It was just so bad. It was so bad. And I think it was very much a case of style over substance. I'm sure you agree.
I very much agree. I think it was, all show and, not good story-wise or script-wise. I thought it was bland. I thought it glamorized rape culture and, that kind of like gratuitous kind of voyeuristic nature of the industry that, thankfully people are a lot more aware of now, but I feel like it was just exploitative in a very uncomfortable way. And as a woman viewing that for the first time, I've never watched it since, but it just made me feel uncomfortable. And in my opinion, you can't get away with being that gratuitous towards rape culture and glamorize it so much just for the sake of art. And I feel that's what it was, and that's what made me so mad with that film. So I've never liked it, and I am glad that you've come round to my
your way of thinking.
Because
it's Charlie's way or the highway. Yeah. Have either of you seen it, Jonno or Sarah?
No, I haven't.
No, I've heard plenty of similar kind of thought processes to Charlie, and that's kind of made me, out of principle, not want to watch it.
Yeah, I think because I'd followed kind of the lead up to it so much, and I think that's where the disappointment lies. I think I was very much like, well, this is going to be a great film regardless. I'll find something I like about it. And don't get me wrong, I think the soundtrack's incredible, and I think it looks really nice in places. But that isn't always enough, is it, for a film to be good?
No, I think I avoided the disappointment on this one because, as you say, people went to see it and then went, oh, no, it's pants. So I didn't see it, so I didn't get disappointed, which is quite nice.
It's such a disappointment when a director that you've got a lot of respect for and you're really excited to see what they do next fails so horrendously on something that just shouldn't even be like a thing. Like the way in which like it was very much done for the male gaze, but in such an uncomfortable way. And I can't remember the year it was brought out. Liam, you'll tell me.
It was 2016.
Yeah, 2016. So. Like, even I know we're 5 years ahead of that now, and things have changed a lot even in that 5 years around like the kind of Harvey Weinstein thing and all of that. But like, I just think like 2016. Like, how can you make that big of a I'm not going to say the F word, but a mess up around that subject matter? And I think that was the disappointing thing for me, because like you said, like he'd done Only God Forgives, he'd done so many good films before that, to then come out with that was almost like, why have you done that?
I think what as well I've kind of pondered through the years, sorry to obviously dwell on this one, but was the fact that his kind of stories before that had maybe been more male-centred, obviously with Ryan Gosling in the lead. And I don't think that the violence or the actions were any more extreme than what we'd seen in Drive or Only God Forgives. Because, I mean, they have some harrowing sequences in there as well, talking about the hammer in Drive and obviously the screwdriver in Only God Forgives. Or the icebreaker, sorry. I don't think it was that. I just think maybe it was uncomfortable because he kind of didn't really shift things too much for a female sensibility. And I'm not saying that it necessarily needs that, but at the same time, I do think if you're choosing to make a comment on the modelling industry and how it is male kind of misogynistic and male gaze and everything there, I don't think you can then also put rape and violence in it as well to hammer it home. I think it's a bit too much. But I don't know. That's that one. I think just to round off, obviously, my kind of list here, I also will say more recently, and I know we said this on the last episode, that I was looking forward to seeing it. I really didn't enjoy Godzilla vs. Kong all that much either, which is kind of horror adjacent, but I'm not the biggest of fans. Has anyone had a chance to check it out yet?
We haven't watched it yet. It's on our list to watch. But I know a few. I think it's divided a lot of people. I think people have either absolutely loved it, like I know our friend Dave Hastings absolutely loved it, but I think he was going to love it regardless. Shout out to Dave. But hey, Dave. Yeah, I know quite a few people that have gone, that was,
I don't know, because when you look at it on the face of it, like Rotten Tomatoes, the box office success, all of that, I mean, it's obviously being kind of held up as the most successful film to have been released during this whole COVID situation, which in my eyes, brilliant, that's great. But I don't think it's any better than Godzilla that we got in 2016 or King of the Monsters, which I believe we got in 2018. I just think, I don't know if it's because I don't really like Kong as a character. I think the human characters in this one were just garbage. They were really bad. And I don't even think Millie Bobby Brown was all that great in it either, who I obviously love in whatever she's in. But I don't know. There was just something about it that just didn't sit right with me, and I just thought it was a bit crap. So
I was disappointed in the previous Godzilla film, the one that you mentioned, Liam. Was it King of the Monsters?
King of the Monsters.
Yeah,
oh, wow, okay.
I really didn't like that one. And from everything that I've heard from like friends who have seen the new one, Godzilla vs. Kong, is that it's trash, but they enjoyed it, but that was it. From like a superfluous, they're battering the absolute crap out of each other. Looks good.
Yeah.
But apart from that, meh.
I think when the fights get going, it's good. And I will say, I think kind of when we get to the Hong Kong set piece nearer towards the end, and there's obviously the ending of it and things there, it gets a whole lot better. But it's the shortest one out of the bunch of like kind of monster films we've got with Kong and Godzilla so far, but it felt like the longest to me, which I feel is a bit odd.
Never a good sign, is it?
So no, I don't know. I was a bit on the fence about that. I think a lot of people have enjoyed it, but unfortunately it was a disappointment for me there. But yeah, do you want me to talk about my big disappointment, like the one that literally pretty much broke me as a filmmaker, or do we want to rotate around the group again?
I think what we'll do is I think we'll rotate. I think we'll go to. I think we'll skip onto Charlie for this one, and we'll see what Charlie's got to bring, and then we'll come back to you, Liam.
I need to save my energy
you're
for this. You're
stewing a little bit on this one, and I don't want you to boil over too early.
No.
So Charlie,
okay.
what have you brought to the table for us?
Oh, I have brought possibly one of the films that has just disappointed me more than most things in my life. Surprisingly, it's not the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Although that was a close
That's crazy.
I think I've talked enough about my love for the original Nightmare on Elm Street and how much I hate
Nightmare on Elm Street
the
fan,
remake.
Charlie? Really?
I was going to say, what?
Just a little bit.
You like Nightmare on Elm Street?
I do, but no, I'm not going to talk about the Nightmare remake because it's garbage and it doesn't deserve my breath or energy to speak about it. But what I am going to talk about is a film that, again, Liam, I think we went to see this one together, and I think you will agree with me because
I think we've seen a lot through the years. We've been through a lot through the years with films.
Yeah, I feel like we could just feel each other next to each other, just going like the whole way through because it was just so friggin' terrible. It was Corin Hardy's 2018 contribution to the Conjuring universe, The Nun.
See, I don't even like hearing Corin Hardy's name next to that film because I know he's so much better than that film.
I know. This is right. The things that made me so mad about this film was, 1, Corin Hardy's name was attached to it. It should have been spectacular. 2, half the legwork, sorry Jonno, you'll have to edit that out, half the legwork had already been done in The Conjuring 2. I remember going to see The Conjuring 2 and Valak being established as a character and being absolutely terrified. To the point where I was running up the stairs again like a child in the dark when I was going to bed at night going, oh my god, it's going to be behind me. I hated it. It was horrible. Just the bit where the hands come around the frame and it no, it was a big nope as a character, and it was so well established. So that was already done for it. So how did this film manage to mess it up so absolutely spectacularly? Also, don't even get me started on the fact that they go on a hunt for Jesus blood, which is behind a flipping polystyrene door that's been spray painted to look like stone. It's absolute garbage. If you're making a film in the Conjuring universe, don't come at me with cheap crap set pieces. I think, no offence, Corin Hardy and team, but I think that our entry to the Conjuring universe, hashtag my Annabelle creation, looks more bloody expensive than The Nun. And we made that on a shoestring. We built a bloody confession booth in a shed, for God's sake.
Twice.
So don't come at me with your polystyrene flipping doors and your crappy little vial of Jesus blood. Get in the absolute bin, set yourself on fire, and then roll yourself into the sea.
Oh my god!
Thank you and good night.
That's some strong feelings that Charlie just expressed.
It's so shit.
So
it's just
to clarify on the fence about The Nun.
Yeah. I think she actually liked it. To be honest.
The thing is, as well, it's got it's got decent, fairly unnosed, but it's got decent actors.
You've got Thaisa Farmiga.
Yeah.
She is well established.
Yeah.
And a good actress.
Apart from Thaisa Farmiga, there's a lot of unknown actors in it. So, but I feel sorry. In a way, I kind of feel sorry for it because it should have been better. And I think maybe it did suffer the fact that Valak was established in such a fantastic way that maybe they shouldn't have bothered.
I think there was two things.
They should have left it.
There were two things that really didn't help The Nun. I think one, I don't know, because obviously from the perspective we came at, we knew Corin Hardy, and I don't know who's obviously seen the Hallow. I think it's a fantastic film, homegrown horror, Irish folklore, and obviously a British director. It's great to see doing well. So I think going from that and then knowing he was doing The Nun, there was an expectation which was like up here about what we were going to see on screen. Also, I think James Wan did maybe too good a job with the character of Valak in The Conjuring 2, and I think that's kind of to its detriment, because I don't know if obviously you guys know, Valak was actually part of reshoots. That character was not in The Conjuring 2 initially at all. James Wan shared some images recently on Instagram, and it was this big animatronic demon thing, which looked great, but quite honestly, I think Valak is so much better. But I think that might be why The Nun was crap, because they didn't have this backstory for that character. It was something that was added in, and then they were like, "Oh God, people are responding well to this. Let's make a film about it."
Yeah,
So-
I feel like it went back to, like, you know, when they just kind of went, "Oh, Friday the 13th's done well. Here's 17 sequels.
Yeah.
Done well. Here's 17 sequels." No, leave Valak in The Conjuring 2. It didn't need its own spin-off, and if it did, it should have been a hell of a lot better, because Valak as a character was terrifying. I remember we went to a Halloween party and you dressed up as Valak, Liam, and it was terrifying. And I knew it was you, but it was still not the one. But because Valak was such a scary character, but then it really upset me, because I think very little scares me now. You know, just because we make horror films, I'm a massive horror fan. It takes a lot to scare me. So the fact that Valak did scare me made me go, "Woo!" And when I found that they were doing a film of The Nun, I was like, "Woo! Okay, this is going to be scary." And at no point was I scared, and that's what upset me as well. The fact that there were no there were about 800 attempts at some jump scares, not one of them landed.
Yeah.
I think it was Mark Kermode in one of his reviews described it as quiet nun. So,
Yes.
yeah, it hits the nail on the head. I think it's one of those films that is like a perfect example of something that has every single possible ingredient to be fantastic, but then just isn't.
I mean, the fact that Gary Doberman he wrote the script, and he was obviously writing on the Conjuring films and the Annabelle films. Why was it so bad? Like, it sticks out as the worst entry to the Conjuring universe by far. By a country mile, it is the worst.
I don't know if I necessarily feel it was as bad as the first Annabelle film. Like, I feel like that had a lot of issues, and I don't know if we got a second Nun film, if those issues would be rectified similarly to the Annabelle kind of series, because that's got its own like trilogy now. But I don't know. I think I'm with you on that one. It was utter trash, unfortunately.
And we're all agreed, which is nice.
Yes.
Apart from Charlie, who I'm still not sure about. I think whilst we're rattling through, I think we flip on to Sarah's choice, and then Liam will go back to you. I'll let you stew a little bit longer.
Thanks so much.
Seeing the steam rise from his ears.
No, that's just gas, Sarah. I'm sorry.
There's no such thing as smell-o-vision, my friend. So my choice, I feel like there's just a running theme that whenever I come on this podcast, I kind of go for the most, almost Bobby Basic, most consumer option there is available. And there's no particular reason why. It seemed to happen. So I'm going to be talking about The Purge, namely, I don't want to get confused here, the first Purge film that was made, and then the actual film titled The First Purge. So,
okay.
Prequel, and then the actual Purge. It's all very confusing.
Okay.
That's an appointment in itself, let me tell you. So, kind of want to preface it with, like, the fact that I do enjoy these films. Like, I am a big sucker for, like, the socio-political commentary, and kind of, I'm a big fan of, like, the home invasion trope as a whole. Especially with kind of the first Purge. I think it definitely had legs, and I think that the first Purge film that was released, this is going to get so confusing.
Call it original Purge.
Yeah,
The original Purge. The original Purge. I think perhaps it's, despite its characters that I didn't really give a damn about for one reason or another, I think that it kind of, perhaps, maybe, I don't know, open for discussion, was purposefully disappointing because there was perhaps a thought that, you know, this whole concept, this world could be really, really popular. And I know that, like, when I saw, like, all the marketing materials for this and just this stark image of, like, the creepy mask, like, I was sold based on that. So really simple, really clever. And the fact that, you know, the original Purge was almost entirely set within one household, it definitely kept people, like, intrigued, despite how simple the story is itself. But then, like, going to the first Purge, so obviously the prequel story, when we get to learn kind of the experiment from the get-go, the new founding fathers and kind of their motivation, and the concept, deservedly so, was, I think it was like one of the lowest budget films to hit the top of the box office since like the late 80s, which is cool to know. But I just can't forgive the fancy packaging, and I thought I really, really wanted the first Purge to explore so much more than it actually did. As a theme, I feel like it tried to do too much too soon by focusing in on so many different characters and, okay, now we're going to take you to this person, and by the time you figured out what's going on there, you're going on to the next person, and you can't really emote or feel for these characters because it's scary. Like, the fear of being murdered is horrible. But another disappointment, nice segue, is I felt like, you know, you think of all of the things that have yet to be explored that they could have explored so much better than what they have done with the stories. So you think the Purge, okay, all crime is legal. To me, there are scarier crimes than murder. I know there are, murder's horrible, but there are certain talks about, like, even with like rape culture and that sort of thing, like there are so many fears that haven't been tapped into yet. And because we are kind of so, I guess, desensitized to just blatant murder, I feel like it's kind of lost its appeal and it's lost its punch. And there's so many things that, like, the series, the franchise could have gone into, and especially when you watch it compared to something like You're Next, which I feel did it a whole lot better than this film did, and characters that you actually give a damn about. So I think it needed better writing, better characters, and more of an exploration of kind of the why, not just we want to get rid of homeless people and undesirables.
I think you make a really good point about that kind of the lack of punch that it could have had. But I think, again, you sort of iterated, you know, yourself that it got to the top of the box office. And at the end of the day, it's a film that is out there to make money. And I think if it went away from the kind of the murder aspect of it and started delving into these other things, you probably lose some of the audience, and they've probably made that decision. You know, this is going to be is it, I guess is it still an R-rated film in America, or is it like a heavy PG-13?
I think they've got less and less as it's gone on.
That's what I mean. They'll less and less, and they'll make more money because of it. So I think they've taken that decision, disappointingly, like Sarah says, to pander to an audience that just wants to see people beating up poor people and people beating up rich people.
Unfortunately, so.
I will say that I think I slightly disagree with you a little bit, Sarah. Just in terms of if you're thinking, if when you're talking about the first Purge, as in the film called The First Purge, not the original Purge. I think, the original Purge definitely has a lot to answer for, and I think it was definitely concept over quality, maybe. And
personally,
I
loved the original Purge. I'm just putting that one out there.
I don't think it was too bad.
Opinions with me.
That's your opinion. But I think the first Purge, so the prequel film, I think that did kind of tap into some scarier things, because it did have the idea of, obviously, the guy who just just wanted to kill and maim because he could. And there was those like random acts, but there's a scene that stays with me in that in that film. I'm sure I'm talking about the right one, where the woman kind of gets dragged into like the sewer part way, and there's like these weird men wearing like baby masks, and they're all like trying to like touch her inappropriately and stuff. And I think if it had gone any further than that, like Jonno said, I think it might have alienated people and crossed a line. Particularly because I think that the demographic for that series is very much, I think, teenage boys, quite honestly, and teenage girls, I guess, if they like horror. But I'm not too sure it was the most successful. I'll say that.
Yeah,
definitely agree. Like, there are some points in the film that did make me kind of emote in the ways that I would expect during like a horror film. So I like the bit where they're even just announcing the actual purge, and they're all kind of sat in the church together as a community. Yeah. It kind of got that knowing look in their eyes of like, you're gonna get religion is obviously quite a key hard hitter in this film as well. So that it's not entirely, but I think it definitely, for me anyway, and it might just be because I had really high expectations of them sort of announcing, you know, we're going to delve deeper into what exactly happened at the beginning and go into more detail. I guess I kind of just wanted more. I can't explain fully, and I guess that's kind of the job of being on the podcast, but it was missing something, but I'm not quite sure what. But I said that, and then they've now got a Netflix series, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Amazon Prime. I think it's come and gone. Yeah. 2 series, and I think it's been cancelled now.
Yeah,
you watched that though, didn't you, Jonno?
Yeah, I watched it, and I thought the first season was a little bit lacking, but then I really did enjoy the second season. I thought the second season had some real potential, but then obviously it didn't get the viewers. It's now been cancelled, unfortunately. But they were able to do what they couldn't do in the film, which is what Sarah was saying, where they had a lot of characters, but because it was a series, they were able to spend the time that they needed with the different characters, instead of just flitting over and going, well, we'll see them for 2 minutes, we'll see them for 2 minutes.
I'm wondering if it's one of those films that maybe should have just been a TV series
from the get-go,
like all along, because it needed you to get to know characters to care about them.
Yeah,
and I think it's very difficult with that particular style of film, where it is kind of basically a little bit just of a hack and slash kind of situation, that you don't get their time to care about the families, aside from the fact that obviously in the original Purge they wrote an absolute bastard group of a family into the script, and you just didn't care about them. I mean, maybe that was the point.
I think that was the charm of it, because they were very entitled characters, weren't they? I think there was that kind of joy in seeing them being knocked down a level.
That's what I liked about the first one. You didn't know who to root for.
Exactly.
In theory, you knew that you should be rooting for the people whose house was getting broken into, but at the same time, you were thinking, "Go on."
Because I mean, he made the security systems, didn't he? So you're kind of like, well, you're very much part of the problem, so you deserve this. So sorry, Sarah, I didn't mean to cut you off then.
No, I was just saying that my favourite character in the first original Purge film was the creepy robot that belonged to the sun. Because it wasn't so much the characters that I didn't like, it was the dialogue. I think for me, it almost felt like they got these actors to just come in and go, just say whatever pops into your head, and we'll just go with that. For me, kind of
because Lena Headey's in the first film.
Yeah, and Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke, as well.
Yeah, Ethan Hawke.
Two actors there that are good.
I mean, I like Ethan Hawke, but like Lena Headey is on like, she's probably in my top 3 of actresses that I would love to work with. And she's such a good actor, and I always get disappointed when like really, really like top-notch actors get involved in films that like are just a little bit trashy, because I'm kind of like, why did you choose to do this?
I
don't know.
I think the same reason that we've had 8 Purge films. Yeah, it's the money, I think.
It is a really strong premise, and it's definitely one that I would be interested in, you know, from a production point of view, was story sort of thing. And to be fair, she does get her comeuppance in like literally the last 10 minutes of the film, where she smashes that horrible Vince head on the table.
Yeah.
The only time where I'm like, yes, I support your action.
It's interesting that you say about the whole money situation, like whether they took the role from the money, because I would imagine that the money involved from an actor's perspective probably wouldn't be huge, especially for the first Purge. Well, the original Purge, sorry. But I
think
guess the
Ethan
appeal
Hawke
of it,
got a career out of it, though, didn't he? Because then things like Sinister happened and other things. So I think he just needed to get back on the screen, to be honest.
Yeah, potentially. And I guess it was appealing as well in the sense that it was probably shot extremely quickly. They could jump on it after another project. Oh, it's interesting premise. Jump on that for 3 weeks. Move on potentially.
I mean, the idea is very much in kind of like everyone's mind now, isn't it? Like, I think it is part of pop culture, and it's done well to stay in people's heads.
Oh yeah.
It's like, even if I just hear the siren, I immediately think, oh, that's the Purge, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a guy driving around Derby playing the Purge siren when COVID first hit.
Oh, we know.
Oh, dear.
That's just brilliant.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen that.
Which is, that's when you know something's hit the spot, isn't it? When people are doing it spontaneously.
Yeah.
I think it does feel. I think it doesn't feel too far away from like something that genuinely would be introduced in maybe America or maybe Russia.
I think
somewhere
depending
like
on who's leading America, we'll leave it there and not
China,
get too political. No, I think you mean China.
Who was that?
But, like,
oh, I'm not doing it again. Goodbye.
But yeah, I think
world.
I think that was the thing that I liked about like the whole concept, was the fact that it felt almost possible, almost plausible that we could see that kind of thing happen in the next 10 years, which is a terrifying concept, but I just think maybe not executed quite as well as it could have been.
I think that's where Sarah's hit the nail on the head, that the concept itself is absolutely class, but they could have done so much more.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
that's the disappointment. Oh God, not again. I don't know why I'm looking around, because nobody can see me, but there is a noise.
It's Valak.
It's not. No,
It's Valak.
it's potentially worse.
And to be fair, my gate's just open, so I think someone's coming to home invade me right now.
It's
Possibly
Valak.
somebody who's produced the Purge films to come and just finish you off.
This is the annual Purge. That is ridiculous that you can do that so well, Jonno. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. That's my one talent. Oh, I've got it's so loud in here. Yeah. Sorry, guys. It's Nick Cage. He's in the corner. I'm sorry. He's asked me to tell you a certain number of things. He wants me to let you know about all the roles that he turned down. Films that could have had Nicolas Cage in, and therefore, in my eyes, are huge disappointments because of it.
Just every film, then.
Is that basically every film that doesn't have Nick Cage in it then?
Well, I could have gone for that, but no, these are the ones that apparently he himself has turned down, or at least has kind of been in the running for. Whether he turned them down or they went, what are you on about, Nick? No. But obviously we all know about Superman, that he was cast as Superman in Tim Burton's Superman epic. He had a costume fitting and everything, but that's not the only fantastic character that Nick Cage has almost played. Did you know that he could have been Aragorn in Lord of the Rings?
Do you know what? I feel like I've read this somewhere, and I don't know if it's because I know you that I know that information.
I'm going to say, like, I think I knew this one, but that's because I'm, like, a massive Lord of the Rings nerd. I know a shocking amount of trivia to do with the Lord of the Rings film, so... But, yeah. No.
I'm going
Would
to
it
test.
just be not the orcs, not the orcs? Oh God, not the orcs.
So, Viggo Mortensen wasn't originally Aragorn anyway, was he? Because who was it that turned... it was in place.
Well, I'm not going to lie. Did I don't know if this is just me, but did you guys really know much of Viggo Mortensen before he was Aragorn? Because I feel like
No.
that's kind of his thing.
That was
And that's
where
when I knew who he was.
first knew of him. But he took over from Stuart Townsend, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Right before filming began. Stuart Townsend of Queen of the Damned fame,
Oh.
Oh.
amongst...
But I
other
can't
things.
imagine anyone else in that role.
No.
So
Apart from Nicolas Cage, obviously.
I can't fathom how that would have gone down.
Yeah.
Was actually fired from Lord of the Rings
Ah, was he?
Oh.
a day before filming.
Oh.
Due to
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage's demands.
No, apparently it was due to a contract breach.
Oh.
Ah.
Oh. Oh, we do love some tea on the podcast.
Yeah.
Told you I knew a shocking amount of
Thank you.
Lord of the
Could
Rings.
you just get that
trivia.
off the top of your head? That's crazy.
Legend, Charlie.
Thanks.
The next film that Nicolas Cage was almost in, and again would have changed the film completely. So, I think you can all agree that in The Matrix, Keanu Reeves plays Neo in a way that it's a quiet performance. In a way, it's kind of one note, it's monotone, but it fits the character of Neo. Nicolas Cage was apparently up for the role. How would that have gone down?
It's a
He would have
simulation,
taken both
man.
pills. He would have just taken both of them.
Yeah,
wow.
he'd have just OD'd on all of the pills.
I don't make choices.
Both pills.
Halfway through.
The next one, this was a voice role that he turned down. Think of a character that Nicolas Cage could have played.
Stuart Little.
Not Stuart Little.
Oh, I mean,
gosh.
we definitely need to hear that 100%.
A voice actor. Ooh.
Oh yeah, it was a voice performance. So this is the kind of the star of this animated film
Is it a kid's film?
franchise. Yeah. Huge.
Someone in Toy Story.
No, not Pixar. Huge, probably the biggest
Shrek.
animated franchise. Yeah, Shrek. He was almost Shrek.
2 minutes.
Nicolas Cage
Grandma.
as Shrek?
It'd be
No.
class, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Oh.
What are you doing?
I
in
just
this
can't
one?
imagine him saying donkey, to be honest. It would be donkey. It'd just be very, very flat.
Nick Cage's love, Nick Cage's life.
Oh. He was also almost in Dumb and Dumber opposite Jim Carrey.
That I could see.
That you
Yeah.
see, that could have been interesting.
That could work.
That could have actually been better.
Oh.
Oh, Liam Banks. No. We love Jeff Daniels.
Yeah. Keep
We
him
also
with
love
the...
Nicolas Cage.
We do, more so. We don't have a Jeff Daniels corner.
Exactly.
Well, there are 4 corners of a room, so
Or
maybe we
Cage.
can make space for him.
Yeah,
No, he-
Cage fills the room,
He
Charlie.
fills the room. He is the corner.
He is a corner.
I'm not going there.
Sticking with the Jim Carrey theme, he could have also
No.
had... Oh, what are you thinking?
Ace Ventura?
No.
Okay.
The Mask.
Potentially
The
another
Riddler.
one that I think could have worked. He could have played Joel Barish in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh.
Which I think, given Cage's kind of kooky nature, could have fit quite well. I think Jim Carrey nails it, but I
Yeah.
think that wouldn't have been an awful decision. He was almost the title character in The Wrestler.
Instead of Mickey Rourke.
Yeah,
That definitely
Goodness
would not
sake.
have worked.
but apparently he was happy that Mickey Rourke got the role in the end. He was pleased for him.
Oh, I'm so pleased. I'm so glad that Nicolas Cage
Yeah.
approved of that casting.
What else?
It'd
have
be
we got?
Nicholas in the cage instead of Nicolas Cage.
Way.
Hooray, puns.
Here's one that I think could have been absolutely fantastic, and I'm really disappointed that it wasn't. He was almost Chev Chelios in Crank.
No.
Yeah.
What?
No,
Yeah.
again, I think I'm happy with how it worked out on that one.
Just think how mental he could have been. Because
I mean, that film's pretty intense anyway. Have you
he
seen
worked-
number 2
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, mate. he worked with the directors, didn't he, on Ghost Rider 2?
Yeah, it's kind of Ghost Rider but turned up.
Yeah.
I felt in terms of just ridiculousness.
So I think he could have slipped into the Crank universe quite well. So there you go. I think about 8 disappointing things there about Nicolas Cage. That
I mean, what
unfortunately
could have
never happened.
been? I mean, I believe in parallel universes, so there's probably a universe somewhere, Jonno, where he did do all of those roles.
There's a universe somewhere where he plays absolutely every role ever.
There's probably a universe where everyone is just Nicolas Cage.
Oh, the
I
dream.
think Lord of the Rings would have won 13 Oscars for its final film
14.
if Nicolas Cage
Best
was...
actor.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I feel like he would have just thrown Frodo in at the end instead of just the ring, or there'd have been something that would have altered.
Yeah.
It
It
would
could have been an interesting
one
goal.
film.
Do you know what? Yes. I would. I think he
Interesting
would have made a
Gollum.
great Gollum. Yeah.
Oh no, but Andy Serkis, man, like no.
But
Mm.
Nicolas
You love
Cage,
that.
though.
But Nicolas Cage, say my precious,
Yeah.
touching his ring.
Touch it
Am I
standard.
right?
Right.
My lord.
I'm going to divert it away from Nicolas Cage and back to general horror disappointments. I'm going to leave Liam hanging again because I know he's really excited about his, and I can see him just having issues and palpitations.
Jesus Christ, Jonno.
So, my choice that I'm bringing to the table isn't a specific film. It's more kind of a trend in horror, and I guess it's just a trend in general. And that is the pointless horror remake.
Okay.
So, Charlie, no, not Charlie. Liam's touched on it with Carrie earlier on, film that both Liam and Charlie hated because it offered absolutely nothing new when it could have done. I want to go down a little bit of a slightly different route in the sense that the film that it's really annoyed me about is the film that we saw at Mayhem a couple of years ago, the One Cut of the Dead, Liam.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely class. Japanese film, low budget, zombie comedy horror about the making of a zombie film. It is pitch perfect. It's in Japanese, but I think that is part of its charm. It's that kind of otherness about it that you can tell it's very not British. It's got that Japanese sense of humour, but it just translated so well. The characters were quirky. The characters worked because to kind of a Western audience they were, for want of a better word, odd, a lot of them, and it kind of, you got that vibe from it. You went along with the ride and everyone in that cinema was howling with laughter, and it kind of did it had a small run at the cinemas afterwards where it played places like the Quad or smaller cinemas around the country. And I remember I took a few people who normally wouldn't go and see foreign films, let alone kind of foreign like genre films. They wouldn't go and see that sort of film, but I said, no, look, you've got to come and see this because it is hilarious. Stick with it. It's fantastic. And everybody had the same experience. Thought it was class. And yet there's going to be an American remake. And it saddens me that instead of pushing the original and getting that out there to be seen, they're going to remake it in the English language, and it's just I can't see it offering anything new, and it saddens me.
I think we know 100% it'll be not as good. Like,
well,
right off
that's
the bat.
kind of like what a lot of Japanese remakes into like American audiences have done. Like, look at The Grudge, look at The Ring.
Yeah.
Are they as good as the original? No, they're not.
It's funny you say that, because on this list that I had, one that I didn't mention earlier was the redo of The Grudge from 2020 as well. Because not only did we get an English-American remake of the original Grudge, we then had kind of like a reimagining or a restart, or I don't know what they call it now. It's like a soft reboot, isn't it? In 2020. And again, absolute arse. It was just dreadful. But I know that Goodnight Mommy as well. I don't know if you guys have seen that, which I think is a Danish film. That's just been announced as being remade for English audiences with Naomi Watts in the title role.
I did see that they were making it, but I haven't seen the original.
Well, I only recently watched it, and again, there's nothing wrong with it. So just leave it. Watch it with the subtitles on. Like, it's really not that hard.
I feel like the only reason they remake it is because people can't be asked to read some subtitles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it drains the soul out of the film, like the original. Mm-hmm. Just so what? You don't have to read some subtitles. Grow up, read the damn subtitles.
I think that's what worked for One Cut of the Dead, wasn't it, Jonno? It was like you said, it was because I think the sensibilities and the way people acted and stuff, it wasn't necessarily what we were used to, and that's what gave it that charm and made you kind of think, oh, okay, what's going on? So you didn't quite click to it all straight away.
Exactly.
And I don't know, I know what American comedies can be like sometimes, and I just know it's going to be awful in every sense of the word.
And the thing is, it sort of happens, doesn't it, quite a lot when a sense of humour that is so sort of ingrained in one country's culture is then sort of twisted to fit into another one. So, for example, The In-Betweeners over here is very British.
Yes.
That was remade in America, and it absolutely bombed because it took everything that made it funny and tried to make, and it basically Americanized it, and it bombed over there.
Weird.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The British one, like there's some, like the first few episodes at least that I tried to consume, they literally have exactly the same dialogue in that won't be funny to an American audience.
Exactly. And yet if they watch the British version would probably find it funny.
Yeah.
Because it's well done. Because
but it's also because they're coming at it being American and not quite knowing what we're like, I suppose. The same way as we did with One Cut of the Dead. It's like I can just imagine the Pom thing being like substituted for something else and it just coming off as obnoxious as opposed to oddly charming, which it did in Cut of the Dead.
I think that the one time it's sort of worked is when a formula is taken and then tweaked in such a way that enhances it. So something like the English Office then going over to America then becomes totally different and works. Because the general concept, is the same, but then the way it's approached is so wildly different. That's when it works.
The US Office is arguably better.
Agreed.
I think than the UK Office, and I don't know why, but it's I think the only time I've preferred like a reimagining of something like that than the original. The original UK Office is okay, but the American one is, I don't know why, it just kills me.
I think it is because they're trying to do their own thing with it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't know, it took me, I think, some time to actually realise that they were the same kind of thing for a long time. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of remakes that I think that have been done from foreign films that have actually been any better. And I mean, the only one that kind of comes to mind, I guess, a bit would be The Ring. Like, I did enjoy that a lot more compared to the original, because I think we said this before, I don't think the original Ring or Ringu is that scary. But again, it took that idea and then rolled with it and made it's got its whole thing going on. Like, they made a whole kind of different story out of it, which I thought was great.
It's that's when it works. It's another one that stresses me out is the American remake of Old Boy, which is just Old Boy but turned down a notch. Like, why?
Yeah,
why you done this?
It's not good, is it?
One film that I'm pleasantly surprised, though, I'm going to leave it on a happy note, that it's not been remade, to my knowledge, is the Spanish film The Orphanage. Pretty sure that's not had a remake, because that is absolutely class, and I thought it'd be ripe for one.
Put to next month's podcast episode. So The Orphanage has been announced with Naomi Watts in the title role again.
Does she just go around, like, phone her agent and go, "Hi, okay, another remake from a Japanese film. Yep, I'm on it."
Quite possibly.
Like 100%, because I'm sure there is another one that she's done, which is a remake of something. Let me just have Funny Games. That was another foreign remake.
That was Danish, wasn't it? Funny Games.
Yeah.
Originally.
So she's done that, Ring. Now she's doing Goodnight Mommy. I mean, it's a career, isn't it? And I do like Naomi Watts. I'm not going to lie. I do think she's very, very good, but interesting.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Interesting.
Talking about
choices.
Interesting choices. You've got an interesting choice, Liam.
So yeah, I suppose this is where you need to have like the bleep on standby for all of this section.
I'm just going to preface Liam talking about this film by saying that we went to see this together, and I remember the anger as we left the cinema.
I think
no one was safe. Everyone heard his opinion of the film.
Women and children were
cinema.
running away as I left. I think you always used to know if I didn't like a film, if I was sat next to you and I'd like sigh really loudly,
Oh, yeah,
or I'd take an intake of breath.
If you go to the cinema with Liam and you hear this noise, it means he's not enjoying it. If there's a long exhale of air from the nose, it means he hates this film and he thinks it's crap.
Just so you're aware, Charlie, sorry, that noise didn't come through, so I'm going to put in my own ridiculous noise.
Yeah,
It's just gonna be,
that's why I thought it's probably better to describe the noise as well as do it, just in case.
if you just hear Liam in the cinema make this noise, oh yeah, it means he does not like the film.
Just you wait.
I'm excited. But yeah, the film that I probably hold up as one of the biggest disappointments for me ever is from 2014, and it is The Babadook, aka Mr. Creek, because they're
Australian
obviously
Mr.
the
Creek.
same film. So,
If you'd like to see our short version of The Babadook, please head to the superfreakmedia YouTube channel.
yeah, 100%. And we'll get into the meat of why it's basically the same film in just a moment. So, 2014, Jennifer Kent directed The Babadook. It's an Australian film, actually based off of a short film, which is hilarious because Mr. Creek's also a short film, so probably copied that as well. Her short film was called Monster and was made in 2005, so it took a good almost 10 years of gestation for her to make this shit. And quite honestly, I think, again, it's just a perfect example of where marketing was just way off with what actually the film was. Because I'm sure at the time I can remember seeing that like the trailer had broke records, everyone was watching it, sharing it. I can remember even people I knew who weren't that into film knew about The Babadook and were going to see it. It's basically sold as being like this terrifying experience with this monster, and it's just really not. It's really not. And I think that's where my disappointment came from, was the fact it just wasn't what I expected it to be at all.
Do we think that's the fault of the film, though, or is that the fault of the marketing? Because
I think
the marketing's done its job. They've got the people to go and see the film. The filmmaker at this point probably hasn't got any say in what happens.
I like the fact that they're keeping quiet. Don't blame the marketing team.
I agree with you, Jonno. I'm not blaming poor Jennifer Kent. At the end of the day, she's made a film that's been seen by millions of people, which is the dream at the end of the day, and that's great. There's a lot of good things going for the film, so whilst it is a big disappointment for me, I don't think it's just crazily bad in every aspect. I think it looks great, the art direction is great, performances I think are even great in it. You've got Essie Davis playing Amelia. Noah Wiseman plays probably the world's most annoying kid that you just want to punch in the face repeatedly. And I mean, I had a look at these guys, and funnily enough, Noah Wiseman hasn't done much in the way of acting since being in The Babadook. So someone probably did find that kid and just dispose of him.
He's in the same bin
as the nun.
As the nun.
Currently burning and on fire. We do not condone child violence on this podcast. Just a disclaimer there. I don't know. I think there's a lot of films, particularly like more recently the A24 films. So you've got like Hereditary, Saint Maud, The Witch, The Lighthouse, all of those sorts of things. They're marketed in a way that I think, going into it, unless you're a bit of a dope, it's going to be something with a bit of an artistic flair. It's a bit art housey, that sort of thing. So your expectations are clearly laid out, I think, before you go into it. The Babadook, kind of just went like it was just this general horror kind of blockbuster thing, and it really wasn't. I think it was very arty. The whole basis of it is that it's a metaphor for, like, this monster, this creature is a metaphor for what the characters are going through. So, like, mental health problems, grief, depression, and it manifests itself in this form that the two central characters have to tackle. That is a great premise. It is nicely done, but it's just, I don't know, that there's just something about it that really kind of bothered me at the time. And funnily enough, this was pre Mr. Creek anyway, and then this is where obviously the story gets interesting and personal. So we made a film called Mr. Creek, which it was part of our 1 Minute Nightmare series. We then entered it into the BBC competition called The Fear, and it was basically, the show's premise was that the audience would watch these short films, rank them, and then the director of Blair Witch would decide which one got developed into like a bigger film or a feature or things like that. Now there was two guys on that show who, I don't mean them any ill will, but they were kind of touted as the film guys, so like they knew about the films. And their comment where they immediately compared Mr. Creek to the Babadook because there's a nursery rhyme basically just meant that that's all we got on social media for the film. It was just like, oh, this is a Babadook rip-off, this is a knockoff of this is that. And it just left a really sour taste in my mouth because I don't feel like our film is anything like that. And it just kind of, I don't know, they share themes in the sense that there's this childhood kind of nursery rhyme, but that's it.
Yeah, but so many films have childhood nursery rhymes in them.
Exactly, like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Girls are skipping over a skipping rope. Oh no, our film is like Nightmare on Elm Street. No, it isn't. Shut up. If
anything, that was probably the inspiration for it, was that childhood kind of nursery rhyme, and the fact that the whole premise was that this was a character going back through like childhood memories. So that would have probably been a nursery rhyme that Penelope knew when she was younger. Mm-hmm. And like did like the Ring of Roses rhyme, that sort of thing. So I don't know, it really vexed me, guys. Like, even like now we will get stuff like, oh, that's cool, mate, like the Babadook. You're like, no, it really isn't. It's like every other film before that, or I don't know, its own thing.
But we hadn't seen
pricks
because we hadn't seen the Babadook.
Everyone is angry.
Well, no, this is the thing. It's like, I feel like it kind of happened at a similar sort of time that we saw this film, because although this was released in 2014, I don't believe we actually saw it until kind of the start of the next year, and we produced Mr. Creek in February of 2015. So I really don't get it. Like, there's no storybook that the character's reading from. There's notes that have a rhyme on. I think that the only parallels are that you have this creature and you have a nursery rhyme, but that's it. That is it.
Yeah, but it's like the Babadook, I don't know. Mate. It's the Babadook. just don't. We've never had it with any other of our films, and whilst I take it as a huge compliment that we get those comparisons to things, it just bothers me that I think people think we see a film, sit down, and then go, I might like to take that idea and write my own like version of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, let's just do that, but shorter.
Yeah, it's just an insult, I think, in many ways. And I don't usually get that thingied about stuff, but
but here we go.
The Babadook, man.
But on the flip side, maybe people have watched it, Mr. Creek. I mean, because people have gone, oh, have you seen that film on YouTube that's like the Babadook? So maybe that's one of the reasons it's got so many views. So maybe, just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, or maybe
Liam's looking like he actually wants to stab me in the face right now, so I'm going to shut up.
Maybe
no, I'm just thinking of the Babadook again.
Someone's watching the Babadook and going, that's just Mr. Creek, mate. Just like Mr. Creek, innit? You're on about.
Well, this is it.
Which is equally as ridiculous.
There have been a ton of films where I've seen stuff. So let's go back to The Nun, for example, Charlie. We had a scene in The Confession, the At My Annabelle Creation film that we made, and there's the scene, obviously, where you then get taken out, Charlie, where there's the demon at the end of the corridor. Right. cut to like a year later, there's a trailer for The Nun, and then a nun takes out the character in the corridor. You didn't see me like crying online about the fact that they'd stolen the idea and thinking, but there's similarities, so why aren't we commenting? Yes, it's the confession, mate.
I think it's all right on the internet. I feel like we're going to get trolled for me saying this, but I don't care. I feel like it's okay when big studios rip off smaller artists and smaller creators, smaller filmmakers. But when we look like we do it, oh my God, we're the devils, burn us, and sacrifice us to the film gods. Jesus Christ. It's like, it's almost as if you don't have money and you don't have studio backing, you can't have any original ideas. And it's like,
and the thing
piss
is,
off, dickhead.
If you look hard enough, you'll find something that's similar to it. There's so many things that have been done now that if an original idea is exceptionally hard to come by, and even then, you'll find something that has some sort of similarity somewhere. But it's interesting with the Babadook, Liam, that am I right in thinking that the thing that disappointed you the most was that it wasn't the film that it was marketed as?
Yeah, I think the initial thing was, I think I was already in a bit of a bad mood with it from just watching it. But then the fact that we got compared to the film that I really didn't like that much at the time, which I think everyone was saying was like the new Exorcist, which I don't see it personally. I don't get it. Because I know the likes of Commode, all of the critics that you'd respect their opinion on, they were like falling over this film. And I really, really didn't see it. And I don't know, I feel like you felt similarly, Charlie, at the time. Obviously, opinions change, but it was
I'll be honest,
a letdown.
It's not one of those films that I've gone back and watched just because I don't feel like I've needed to. There are films that I will, like lots of horror films that I will go back and watch over and over again, but with this one I was just kind of like, I feel like the exploration of mental health can be done in a horror way, and I feel like the idea behind it, kind of like when Sarah was talking about The Purge, is so interesting.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it was like, oh, that's what this film is about. And like you said with the marketing, I think they marketed it. I think the marketing team read a vague description of the film, i.e. there is a monster and a child and a nursery rhyme, and they created a trailer off the back of that, rather than actually watching the film and going, oh, this is it. And I don't know if they did it to try and make it like a twist. Like, oh, we've led you down this garden path, but oh, psych, it's actually a film about this.
Yeah.
But if that was their intention, then it didn't work. Because
I mean, kudos to the marketing team, because it was a great trailer, and ultimately that's the reason a lot of people went to see it, and critics obviously did enjoy it, because it would have stood out, I think, as being different at the time. But I think it was because you obviously had the likes of like Insidious and all of these sorts of films around that time kind of bubbling up, and obviously Sinister, things like that, where you'd had these kind of villains be set up, or these kind of really iconic looking characters, and it was pretty much like pegged in the same lane as that, and it really just wasn't. I think the best thing for me that came out of this film was the fact that it then accidentally became a gay icon when it was mislabeled on Netflix, like so many years later, because you just had all of these films, and then the Babadook was there.
I love the fact that year so many people went to Pride
just to dress as the Babadook. Yeah, I mean, that I think is amazing. So yeah, ending on a positive. I appreciated that ending for it.
Thanks for listening again this month to the Super Freak Media podcast, No Ghouls Allowed. Before we go, I just want to pass you on to Charlie Clark for a few seconds just to chat about some blog posts that you may have missed.
Yes, so this month we've actually got a special double bill month for you. So we've already got one up on horror soundtracks that we like to listen to when we're writing, and we've also got one about directors that we've got our eye on. So be sure to go and check those out.
And where can we find those, Charlie?
If you head to the Super Freak Media website and click on blog, you will find all of my lovely writings and ramblings there.
That sounds wonderfully self-explanatory. Thank you very much. As always, if you'd like to enter the competition to win some Super Freak Media goodies, all you need to do is like the Instagram post that advertises this month's episode. As always, Thank you very much to my guests this time. We've had Charlie Clark.
Thank you very much.
Sarah Thomas.
Thanking you.
And Liam Banks.
Thank you so much.
Are you recovered now?
I think I've got a lot out of my system on this podcast, so thank you for making this a safe space. I'm glad that this is going nowhere and no one's ever going to hear this. So thank you.
It's not going on the internet at all.
Nope.
So with that, as always, keep it creepy and see you on the other side. Went for it.
What was that?
What? Oh, was Liam making weird
Liam
arm
just went.
movements?
But it was like the slowest.
I think it was the lag, because when I tell you my wrist nearly flew off, it nearly flew off.
Yeah. Wrista. It's not even a thing.
It's not. It
even
should
a
never
thing.
be a thing. Nope.
I'm gonna chef you up, fam. That's one of the things that the kids have been saying.
Chef you up.
Chef you
What?
up, like chop you up, but with some chefy finesse.
Chefy finesse.
Yeah, I'm gonna chef you
I'm
up,
gonna
cuz.
chef you up.
I'm a
Thanks.
chef you up.
It's good, isn't it? I like that one.
Yeah, I like that actually.
I'm gonna start using it.
Please do.